You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma Podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today, but before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma. And it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. A huge shout out to Governor Anatobi for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is presented by Citizens Bank of Edmond. Citizens Bank of Edmond has been serving Edmond since 1901. They pride themselves on investing in the community and are here for all your personal and business banking needs. For more information, go to mycitizens.bank and follow them on Instagram at citizensedmond, as well as go bank there, because I bank there too. It's been a fantastic personal experience for me. I've had my podcast account there now, my podcast business account there now for 4 years now, I think, and it's been fantastic. So definitely worth your time. They're a great group of people, and they're always there to answer the phone when I forget my password, because I seem to forget it daily. So yeah, go to Citizens Edmond and check them out. It's been awesome. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike and your host, back with another episode down at the Oklahoma Hall of Fame today. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you my guest today, Nick and Lori from Junction Coffee. You will know them because you see a giant red London bus around Oklahoma City, which doesn't make me think of home, but I used to go to school on the back of one of those buses. The cool kids sat at the back at the top. It took me a while to get to the back at the top as a kid, but yeah, I used to go to school on one of those buses. So when I first saw it, I was like, oh my God. Never thought I'd see one in Oklahoma City. So thank you guys for bringing that here and giving me some nostalgia. But yeah, thanks for coming down. Glad to dive into your story. We've just been talking before. You've been at this a very long time. Probably doesn't feel like it.
Both. It feels fast, both. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But, I think we just missed each other at SNU. I started fall of 2011, and you guys seemed to graduate that year. Yeah. So just missed each other, but we're also rolling the same circles, so we know a lot of the same people. So this feels very familiar today. I guess let's start with kind of what current life is like right now. What's the state of the business? How's coffee? And how are you guys doing?
Life is... I feel life is always crazy. I think just like being a small business owner, being an entrepreneur, there's always something. And I think what I'm learning is there are people whose goal in life is to just like reach a certain level and then just hang out there. And then there are people who just like can't stop. And the second they get the second they get a breath, they're filling that in with like a new idea or a new pursuit or whatever. And those are generally the people that are entrepreneurs, right? So we are learning about ourselves that we're always trying to work. We're always trying to work to gain ourselves more time. Like, I just need some more time. I just need some more space. And then as soon as we get more margin, we're like, oh, cool, now we can do this thing. Now we can do that thing. And now, we don't have any more margin. So
it's so true. I feel like there's a level of chaos that if you're a business owner, like, not to be cliche, but if you know, like, there's that level of chaos that you reach, and it just keeps kind of expanding. like continuously. Like, there's never a break from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Find out how to take on more things, right? Because
Yes.
the work you're doing just feels comfortable. You're like, oh, I can do something else and something else.
Right. Yeah. It's like, I don't want to call it an addiction or drugs, but it's kind of like an addiction or drug, where you reach a certain threshold and you're just like, oh man, I can do this in my sleep. And so you just kind of keep like stacking them more and more and more. And,
Never ending to do list.
so right now I feel like we're in a place, business wise at least, where we're like pretty stable. Probably the most stable we've been since COVID, and it's allowing us a lot more flexibility and freedom to do some stuff, which is really cool. It's also allowing us to spend some more time with our family. We've been spending a lot of time with our family lately, and that's been really, really good. So,
Yeah. Well, and your parents are two little ones.
Yep, we
Yes,
are.
we've
We got
got
two.
two kiddos.
We've got a first grader and a pre-K-er, and they're awesome. They're down at Western Gateway.
Okay.
And so they're navigating all the bilingual, like trying to figure out how to do 2 languages, and
It's tricky.
it's
Yeah.
really tricky.
And I feel like I have to say, this is a pat on Nick's back here, because I've really kind of taken a step back in this past year because of some family health problems going on that I've been taking care of. And so Nick has been doing it all by himself with the help of our amazing team of people.
Yep.
So very good job. I know that's a lot, and you're rocking it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's take things right back to the start. You both individually tell me like kind of where you grew up and sort of how you find your way to SNU.
Okay, I'll go first. Well, I was born and raised here in Oklahoma. I grew up actually living on the same 2 streets my entire life, Rockwell and Council. Like, we just kind of bounced back and forth, and I went to living across the street from PC North High School. I went there, and then my dad, I think he had this strategic plan to like keep me close by, so he borderline tricked me into going to SNU in a loving way, but so I ended up going to SNU. And that's where I met Nick freshman year at we have the NSI, just like the New Student Institute. And I was actually quite frustrated when I met him, because I knew right away that it was going to be something big, and I really didn't want to date anyone right away. So I remember being like, honestly, pretty pissed. Like, gosh, seriously, like, could this not have happened a little bit later? But so my story is really short because I'm here.
Yeah.
And I'm still here. I made him stay.
Worked out.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
We went through college, and then got married out of college, and now here we are, because I made him plant some pretty deep roots in Oklahoma. So, but we couldn't have done it anywhere else.
You didn't
honestly.
make me,
I didn't make
but
you, but
you didn't discourage
I
it.
also kind of made you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was born in Southern California, and my family, when I was like 8, moved to Denver, and so I grew up out there. And my youth pastor, his wife was a graduate of SNU, and so when I was looking at different colleges and looking at that, when I was in high school, I actually felt a call to ministry, and so started looking at some private universities and ministry programs. Landed at Southern Nazarene, and like Lori said, like met each other probably the second day of school ever. And the interaction did not go well. It was not love at first sight. I was all hopped up on group dynamics. She was like super focused. Like, she comes from a competitive athlete background. And so she like there was some activity at NSI.
Football.
It was like flag football. And she's like focused, like ready to win. And I'm just like,
I was getting ready to
the
go
party
on.
has arrived and I'm in. And she was not having it. And so, so it took probably a couple more weeks for us to like warm up to each other.
You yelled in my face. You left that part out.
That. Well, the party has, and I knew it was
It was directed at me.
like this. So,
And I think I was like,
she's like, get out of my space.
I'm here to win.
Yeah. And so
trying to focus here.
But eventually we warmed up to each other and fell madly in love.
Yeah. I'm surprised it took you like 4 years of college. Most people just at SNU get married like, quick at school.
Yeah.
So
I admittedly wanted to. My sister had done that, and I wanted to, and his family was like, "You should just wait." And I remember being pretty mad at them at the time, like, "Oh, how dare they?"
Well,
but I'm so thankful.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
you only have those 4 years,
And that was the big deal. And for me, like we were going to try to get married between our junior and senior year.
Yeah.
Which is what your sister did.
Yep.
And we had a couple other friends that did that. But my junior year, I lived with like just even to this day, like the best friends that I've ever had. And we kind of sat down and had a really hard conversation where I was like, we've only got one more year where I can live with 7 of my best friends. And I don't
Be crazy.
I love you,
Right.
but I don't want to lose out on this
Right.
opportunity. And the next year, admittedly, wasn't as great.
It was fine.
But it ended up being fine. It ended up working out. And honestly, I think like spending that long dating really strengthened our relationship in a lot of ways. I think
It was hard.
because
Okay.
it forced us into, I think, a little bit of a deeper struggle. Definitely like wrestling through that conversation and having all that kind of stuff afterwards. But even just like senior year was really hard for both of us, and it was extremely hard and stressful for you as a design major.
Yeah, my degree's in graphic design, and senior year is when you put together your portfolio. I mean, so many late nights till all-nighters in the design lab just trying to pull stuff together. So it was pretty stressful.
Yeah.
And you put together a show at the end of the year as well, so. So
And
I'm really
then
glad.
you were designing like our wedding invitation.
I
Like you
was,
designed
yeah.
all of our wedding stuff.
Yeah,
So
and a couple other friends.
and then like senior, yeah.
Because that's in you, right? Everyone's getting married at the
You
end of
remember
the
those
year.
7 guys? Like all of them got married
Yeah.
that summer.
It's an interesting
great for
dynamic.
business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it ended up being, I found, or at least I think so, maybe you're different, but I found that like later on, if transition, like when we started building the bus and started doing business together, I can't tell you how many times I was thankful for those 4 years, and even the tension I think of like delaying getting married caused in our relationship, because it really helped. It set a good foundation for working through conflict, resolving mixed expectations, and
Communication in general.
communicating and
Yeah.
even just like being patient and understanding. Not everything has to be instant,
Right.
which for me is a really hard thing. I'm a very instant gratification person. So but like being so grateful for that later on as we're like building a business and all that stuff.
So at this point, like you're stressing out because you're doing your graduate stuff and doing your graphic design stuff. Nick, did you study ministry in school then? So you still that was still the plan at the time?
Yep.
Okay. So when you graduate, you're like, hey, we're getting married, but we also need to get a job and buy a house and have a life.
Yeah.
What was like the plan at that time? Like, were you guys thinking of going? Because a lot of people who get into ministry, sometimes they have to take a job somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that time in your life to go into the adult world.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Initially, I think we had talked about trying to do a mission organization and flee the country for a while.
I don't remember that.
It was a hot minute. I think I held on to that.
Of course you held on to that, yeah.
But we actually I ended up getting a youth pastor position at your family's home church.
Right. Our marriage kind of had a quick dive. My my dad died suddenly, unexpectedly, 3 short weeks after we were married, up in the Colorado mountains, and ended up in a plane crash because of it. And so right after we were married, we also had to figure out how to navigate a tragedy. But we managed to do that really well. It really kind of set some priorities straight in our marriage and in our life, kind of right at the beginning. But we had actually gotten that job right before.
Yeah, we
That happened.
accepted the position before.
Accepted the position before that happened, and then that happened kind of right at the beginning, and so being there was pretty tricky for me. You rocked it. It gave us something. It gave me something good to
complimenting me.
focus on. Well, your turn.
Yeah, like, there's expectations.
You're doing great. You're amazing.
Can't you tell I'm fishing?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No, well, I will say though, like to sit in like a prayer circle with like middle schoolers, and
Right.
the prayer requests and the tensions and the stress that a 14-year-old has. On the heels of losing your father, watching Lori minister to those girls and watching her navigate through that was really incredible to be able to see. Like,
I really wasn't fishing.
I know you weren't, but now I'm being honest. Now it sounds disgenuine, so take over. I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to put it out there. You're amazing, and I love you. So no, but it was really cool. To be able to do that. But I think, so we took that position.
I freelance graphic design on the side.
I was going to say, like, how do you support a family on?
It wasn't a lot, and we didn't like. What did we? We didn't do it alone. Like, we are so lucky that we have such a good support system. We were able to work out like a discounted rent or something with my family because
part of the
church.
part of the package was that because her family attended the congregation, so the pastor was able to negotiate where we actually stayed in one of your parents' rental properties, and then they essentially got tax credit as a part of our compensation, and so then a lot of our housing was taken care of, and it's not uncommon for housing to get taken care of like that for pastors and things. But it worked out in a way that we were really grateful for it. And
then I fell into the freelance graphic design world.
Yeah.
After
It can be very lucrative.
It can be, yes, and I fell into the wedding industry at the time, not by choice, but it was also a blessing because, worked out well.
So this is going on. You're kind of ministering young kids, which is not easy. But also, like, obviously, you got your graphic design thing. You're getting your kicks on that as well because you don't just want to waste 4 years of college. I'm sure families like, hey, you got college. You got to do something with what you came out with. When does coffee come into it? Like, when do you start like thinking, you know what, I want to be my own boss. I'm dreaming to start a business and become an entrepreneur. Like, it sounds like your family had that with rent houses and other stuff. Interested to see if, Nick, that's on your side as well. But like, where does that all happen?
Honestly, like, I think if I look back from here, looking back all the way back to then, like, it was always there. We would like have date nights, and we would go down before youth pastoring, before whatever, like, just like we would just go downtown on a date, and there was we actually go down to the Bricktown Canal. There was a frozen yogurt place, and there we would sit, we'd get froyo, and we'd look across the river, and there was a vacant building.
It's still vacant.
It's still vacant.
Yeah.
Really?
It's
No,
right
it
next
is.
to the Brickopolis.
Yeah.
It was
All of
before
that.
they bought that lot and built and turned it into the putt-putt. It's that building on the end. It's like Cholinos. Oh gosh.
No,
it was a Mexican restaurant.
Okay.
I don't even know if it was that.
Yeah.
But it's still vacant. It's still
there,
still
vacant,
empty, still
because
available.
we went inside and it would take millions of dollars just to get it up to code.
Well, and I think like the basement of that building was basically where they dumped all the trash from the canal.
Lovely.
And so then they built the building on top of it. So like half of it wasn't usable and the other half was kind of, anyways.
Yeah.
But we would sit and we'd look at that and we'd be like, hey, like, wouldn't it be cool if we put a coffee shop in it? Wouldn't it be cool if we put apartments in it and we could use that as a way to like bring in interns, and we could house interns, and we could do coffee, and or we could have a venue or whatever. And I think like
it was always there, but I think we got to a point where we remember that conversation we had where I was like, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? Like, what makes you happy? At this point, we had no kids.
When you can, I mean, there's always a good time to ask that question, I
23,
think.
24 years old.
Right, yeah. You're just like,
We didn't have kids until I was like
what can
20
we do?
years.
Yeah, but like this time you're like 23, 24.
No,
dreaming.
well, yes, we are.
yeah.
But this was little bit. We had been youth pastoring for a couple years, and you had been kind of just been feeling like
Well, there was always this tension between like, okay, so like I'm a pastor, obviously people of faith, and so like there's this tension between the truth that we believe about the world, where people have value, people are loved, people are lovable, and that is like universally across the board, no matter who you are, what you've done, where you've been, all of that. But there is this tension between like the church is supposed to be where you come to understand that, but along the way, the church is made of people, and people don't necessarily reflect that, and so there's been this rift, and it's a growing rift. And so this idea for me, as we were trying to minister to students, trying to instill that value in them, trying to love them and convince them that they're worthy of love, there was this realization of just like, the only people hearing this message are the people that are already a part of the club. And anybody outside of it, I would arguably some of the people that need to hear it the most, aren't interested in coming to the club for XYZ, whatever reason.
Yeah.
And so I got really frustrated by that. There were some other things that kind of went down behind the scenes, as is really common.
back to the question now.
I'm getting there. The question's right there.
Sorry.
And so, we're like, I'm like ranting in the car, and she brings me down. It's just like, okay, but like, so if you could do anything, what would it be? And I was like, man, I just want to like drink coffee with people.
Drink coffee and talk to people.
Yeah.
Those are your words.
I want to just get to know people and be able to like authentically and organically and truly breathe into them like, man, you're worthy of love, you're worthy of value, and just treat humans well.
Right.
Yeah.
Because like that is like especially overseas, like I didn't grow up in a religious background at all. I'm sure a mutual friend of ours is Eric Smith, and what Eric's doing in Germany, right?
Yeah.
They have bars, or they have pubs, or they have coffee shops. Like it's a way, because I still might be one of those people. Like, it's much easier to go. You have to go to where they're at, right? Like if you look back over scripture or whatever, you go to them. You don't just build a house. Not all the times that they come to you,
Right.
So yeah, like it makes sense that coffee and ministry are very tied together, because just a common place we can come hang out, have a drink, have a beer, have a coffee, whatever it is, and just have a chat. And it doesn't have to be, it's not like that hard sell, right? So like going to SNU, it's like, you got to go to chapel, you got to sign a lifestyle covenant. I was not told any of that before I got on.
Yeah.
By the way. My coach did not tell me that. But you're right. Like so you have that moment, and you're like, I just want to have coffee with people. And then it's like, okay, what does that look like?
And that was the next question. So Lori is the activator.
I am. I'm the activator. So I was like, let's do it. I was like, let's do it. Like we got nothing. We like to play this game too. It's like worst case scenario, or at least we did. Now we have kids. It's kind of a little more tricky.
I still play it. It's just more terrifying. The answers are just scarier now.
I think our worst case scenario is like, worst case scenario, we fail ultimately, and then we like start over, which is okay.
Yeah.
But,
and so that was I think the big catalyst of just like, well, let's do that.
Yeah.
And how do we go about doing that?
Yeah. Go to coffee school. Right?
Nope.
No, actually. Maybe that would have been a smart thing.
Smarter people would. But,
we just bought an espresso machine and put it in our living room.
We did.
Yeah. A La Marzocco.
So
one of the best.
It was great.
Of course. Yeah.
And it took up we had, at the time we lived in the duplex, and it had like this 70s wet bar in the living room. So it like took up the entire wet bar.
Perfect
we had to
coffee
like
bar.
cut
It was
it
great.
across
Yeah.
plumbing.
People would come over and be like, there's a 3-group GB5, so it's like just humongous.
Yeah.
And everyone is just like,
why?
Why?
And we're like, but do you want some coffee?
Yes, the best kind
Yeah.
of
Best?
coffee you're gonna get.
Okay.
How much was that machine?
It was 71. Yeah, no, it was 71. It was
We bought it
7100.
used from someone.
So the story behind that was like, okay, so now we're starting to pursue coffee, right? And we're like, okay, we're going to do this. We talked to the church board. We kind of set up like, okay, well, in this long time we're going to leave. We're going to do this. We're going to start a coffee business. Yada yada yada. And so we just started talking to people, and we found somebody that we knew the guys out in Hoboken, and they were getting rid of their GB5 because of just like water issues. So GB5 has components in them that are really particular, and they need a very, very small, so any sort of like scale that gets in the system shuts it down. So they were selling it because they just couldn't do it anymore. And so we reached out to them. They put us in contact with the technician at Topeka out in Tulsa who had it in-house, and we were like, hey, we want to buy this machine. And he was like, okay. And so we ended up buying it, and then we went out there, we picked it up, and it was like, again, looking back, it's always fun to have these conversations now, because like, do you remember the look on Nick's face?
Fletcher?
Not Fletcher, but Nick. Oh no, it was Fletcher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But he was like, so do you guys have a coffee shop? Well, we're going to start a coffee shop. And he's like, okay. And we're like, great. So then like we install it, and we're like, how do you work it? And he was like, are you serious? And we're like, yes. And he's like, did you just spend your whole savings account on a machine you don't know how to use, and you're going to put it in your house? Yes, we did.
Okay, so I will say, I have a background of entrepreneurs. My dad owned his business, my grandparents, my aunt, my sister. I just come from a line of entrepreneurs. So I did have a little bit of forethought going. I know it sounds like we're just like,
Here's $7,100.
Right?
Now we have this killer coffee machine.
It's going to be the best parties ever.
but I did think about it. There was a plan in place,
So-
at least on my part.
Well, yes, and we did. We did. There was a plan, and there was like kind of a timeline. And honest, to be fair, the opportunity for the machine came up
Right. Earlier
ahead
than
of schedule.
needed.
And so we were like, well, let's just buy it
Yep.
because we're going to use it. And it ended up sitting in our house for like
remember
15
now.
months or something like that.
Yep. Well,
and it
we
was
built
like,
out the
here's the
bus.
opportunity. It's going to save us a lot of money. And we'll learn how to use it. We'll learn how to do all that coffee stuff later. For us, it was always coffee. Even now, coffee is a means to an end. That end, and then really that end just being like good relationships and place of belonging. And so honestly, that end is like making days better.
Yeah.
Like really. So
It's turned into that. We're just like, we just want to make people's day better.
yeah. And so even then, and even when we hire people, like we don't necessarily hire people that have a lot of like. There's no
best
prerequisite
barista experience.
for coffee. It's like we can teach. People can learn how to do coffee.
Yeah.
I can't really teach you how to be not a cruddy human being. Like, so it was always like, I don't know, mission over.
I believe at the time we drew like one of those
You can cut that part.
3-circle diagram things, and we had
Core values and all the rest of it.
Yeah. All that stuff.
Yeah. So you mentioned the bus just a little bit ago. So the bus was the idea from the start. It was just like.
I was hoping you were going to ask that because it actually feeds into what you were saying
Yeah.
about Jesus coming to the people.
Okay.
So we wanted to open a coffee shop, but we didn't have the money, first of all.
Because you just spent it all on.
Because we spent it all on a
It's all on a
machine.
machine. Yeah.
So.
And it really was. It was like we have
especially-
$7,500 in our savings account.
We felt like
Let's do
being
it.
we felt like we needed to be downtown for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Like downtown Oklahoma City, we really felt a strong pull to being downtown Oklahoma City. At the time, food trucks were kind of a big deal. H&H was going on. I heard. And
H&H
so
had just started.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like we were in the process of starting this,
Because we established the business in 2014. We didn't,
and we went down to like Elemental, and there was like a food truck out, and we were like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "Oh, we're doing a thing," and we we're like, "Sweet." So we got some food, we drank some coffee, and then like And then by the time we'd finished everything and like the bus was launched,
Right.
H&H was in
It was a
like, it was
big
like
deal.
full throttle.
Right. So we wanted to open a coffee shop. We didn't have the money for a brick and mortar. So we were looking around at food trucks, but we didn't want to lose the atmosphere of a coffee shop. We didn't want to lose the idea of being in proximity, you know, the whole like quick hand out the window thing. Like we didn't really want that. And so we were like, well, what about an Airstream or like an RV? And then we were coming back from somewhere, and we drove past this beaten down double-decker bus off Reno in the front of a mechanics shop. And we were like, oh, okay, that's it.
Like on our way to a thing, she pulls out a napkin and was like, if you could put seating upstairs, and you could do a bar along the side, and like we still have that drawing. Like
Yeah,
it was
I do.
like the original vision, and it's like she drew up the whole thing before we even got to wherever we were going.
So we pulled over, and I was like, we have to ask about this. Remember? So we went into this truck mechanics place. What is the name of it? We still go there. I actually never looked at the name because I've just always known the location.
Precision Truck and Trailer.
Precision Truck and Trailer. Shout out to them. So we pull in
all
and
your
we
diesel
inquire
needs.
about it. And Rick was like, well, that bus is spoken for. His name was Rick Miller. But he was like, I can get you in contact with people in the UK who helped import these dozen or so buses that drove around the U.S. And
Well, Rick did maintenance for
he
a
was
small
like, and I
fleet
myself
of
was
them.
trained to do maintenance on them.
For a little makeup company. So he spent like 10 years following this fleet around the country, maintaining all these double deckers, which is why this double decker was at this shop.
Right.
So, yeah.
So he got us hooked up with Chris and Pam York in Hampshire, England, and they were like this, I think, retired old couple, and they helped us track down a couple different options, and we chose May-belle. We named her May-belle, and we sent them a bunch of money, and we prayed that she'd make it across the pond.
Yeah, the bank kept saying, once you send the wire, there's no way to get it back. And we're like, yeah. And they're like, okay, but have you seen the bus? No.
We've seen pictures.
Have you met these people? We Skyped with them one time. But you can't come back. And we're like, yeah, that's fine. And they're like, okay. I'm like, just send it. It'll be okay.
And
later that night, we were like,
I was fine with it. I felt at peace about it. I like to think that I've got a little bit of intuition when it comes to like reading people, and so.
I think at one point I said, if they conned us, I don't even think I would be mad, because they were just the sweetest, kindest old British couple, and I was like, there's a special ring in hell for people that can pretend to be that nice and then stab you in the back.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't even be mad. I would be borderline impressed.
But to bring us back full circle, it really worked out, because the more it really did, just this entire process, like once we found the bus, it just opened doors. Like the fact that this mechanic was who he was and knew who he knew and got us this deal that he got us, and these people were willing to do this free of charge for us, and which probably should have been a tip off, but it all was fine. And just us realizing like, wow, like now we do actually get to be a chance to like be Jesus and go to people and meet them where they are. We were feeling hesitant about having a building anyways for that same reason, which things have changed now, and we can get into that later, but yeah. So
Question: was the bus more or less expensive than the coffee machine?
It was more. Yeah.
Significantly more, or just like a little bit more?
Do you want to remember how much?
Yeah. So, I mean, because people ask all the time.
Yeah.
This is,
In 2014.
Yes, I'm sure they've gone up now.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, like you used to ride out to school on a double decker, right? And so, like, if you think about like
UK.
buying a schoolie here, I mean, you can just get them for practically nothing. So
But we looked
the bus, and we looked here for a double decker, but because they're rare here,
I
mean,
they're like $100,000 or something that's just
broken
been
ones.
rotting in the field, and it was just crazy. So we bought the bus. I do think Chris and Pam took a little bit off the top.
I'm sure they did.
And then we paid export fees, import fees, and shipping, and a 5-day road trip for you, me, and Rick because
We didn't know how to drive the
I'd
bus.
never driven anything bigger than a Suburban, and I almost had a panic attack one night laying in bed. I think technically I probably did. I didn't know it at the time, but I definitely did. So he drove it back for us. So all of that was like 30 grand.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So
So the bus itself is minor compared to the other expenses.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, and the GB5 we did end up selling, and we bought a new machine for that because the technician from Topeka, when he went to install it on the bus, was like,
This is not.
"This is a pretty temperamental machine, and you're just going to be bouncing it down the road at 45 miles an hour. I don't think that's going to end very well." So, yeah,
Wise choice.
wise choice.
Yeah.
What port did the bus come into? Where did you have to go to get it?
Norfolk.
Oh,
Norfolk, Virginia.
that's a long way away.
It was.
It's a
It took
long
us
way.
5 days to drive back.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. It was
It is.
the end of October, so like the
Yeah.
leaves were turning. It was freezing.
Peak leaf changing month.
We had a U joint actually crack. We're driving, and Rick all of a sudden was like, "I gotta pull over." So he pulls over. He's a small man, thank goodness, because the space underneath the bus is like 6 inches.
A lot. Like
So he
wiggles
shimmies under there,
underneath
and he's like, "Oh, I was afraid of that." Apparently, we cracked a U joint, which is like a connection point of the steering column.
Okay.
It was
So
a drivetrain.
Yeah. Kind
What
of
was
a
the U joint?
big issue.
was it drivetrain? U-joint.
Yeah. No, I think it because the engine's in the back.
He said if it would have fallen, it would have just taken out.
Yeah, because it was in the middle.
Like
Yeah.
the rest of it, if it would have cracked and come off. So we had a minor emergency, but we're really glad we.
Yeah. And it was red when it
He like
arrived?
The bus,
No,
it was red, white, and blue. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it had been a couple different colors for a long time, and it was originally this like really dark kind of forest green. And Lori really wanted to paint the whole
a
thing.
great color.
I wanted it to be forest green.
Yeah, I mean
so
it's beautiful,
badly.
and I was just like, right, but like anytime somebody like I just like
Yeah.
for the next 10 years I don't want to hear, I wish you guys had painted it red, and we couldn't decide, so we put it to the people.
Yeah, like
Branding.
normal healthy relationship problem solvings, we just like put a vote
Like
out there.
Someone else do it.
Fine. We're gonna do a public vote, and we'll see who wins.
And he won by
I
a
won.
long shot,
Yeah.
which was fine. It was good.
But no, it was.
And the seats are green. That was the natural original seating was like this green leather. But this bus was a 1972 Bristol VRT bus, and it was a school bus for a while. And then it was maintained by a collector for a number of years. And I believe we purchased it from that collector.
No, it was sold to one other person,
Oh,
and
was
they
it?
had it for like 2 years, and then
Okay.
we bought it from them.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah. So it arrives, or you get it back to Oklahoma City, and you're like, I mean, are you thinking, what have we done? Or you've just done a 5-day road trip.
Yeah. We're thinking,
Yes.
I'm tired. I want to
Yeah.
shower. I want a warm, because it wasn't a warm trip either, because the bus isn't.
They're not warm.
Yeah.
No.
It's not temperature controlled or anything. But
Then we started
I was like, okay, we need to make. So the first thing that we did is we probably made like 6 different timelines. So we made like the task timeline chart, flow chart, whatever. So we were like, okay, what are all the things we need to do? We sat in the bus and we just like made a list. We got to take everything out. We got to put everything in. We got to do that. How are we going to do that? And then we called up a bunch of our friends and was like, hey, do you guys want to help us demo out this bus? And they did. There was like probably 15 of us.
your parents came in town. Well, my parents owned Dent Craft Tools, so they had this big industrial warehouse.
So this is where you're doing.
So this
that
is
was
where
gonna
we're
be
doing
my
all
next
the work.
question. Was
Right.
where
So
were you doing
we
this?
had a place
Right.
to keep the bus inside and work on, and I think my dad had just built this second portion to his building that was really not being used, and so it was really an easy come work over here. So that's where we did all the.
So your mom
construction.
still owns Dent Craft?
Yes, my mom still owned it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And she owned it.
Dent
She
Craft
owned it
Tools.
then. He owns it
Dent
now.
Craft Tools.
Dent Craft Tools.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So that was
What year was that? 20.
That was 20. I
We
think it was
got
still
it in
2014.
2014,
Yeah.
and we started working on it in 2014, and we didn't end up rolling out until 2015. Honestly, until a full year.
We
took
got
us
it in
way
November.
longer than we thought.
Well, we
to
got it in
build it.
November, and it sat over the holidays.
Oh, because the holidays were
Because
crazy.
we were like trying to figure out what to do, and then like Thanksgiving, and then Christmas, and whatever. So then in January we demoed it out, and then I think we started construction
That's right.
probably in February or March.
What's family thinking over the holidays that you've just got this bus and you're sat, then you've got Thanksgiving, Christmas coming up, you're sat around the family and they're just like, so what are you guys up to? You having kids anytime soon?
Right. Yeah.
Like, actually, no, we have this giant 1972 bus. It's now my
I mean,
kid.
I will say, so thankfully, like Lori said, like she comes from a long line of entrepreneurs.
Right.
My dad started and sold probably 3 different businesses. My mom started her own business. Like it just, it's a normal thing. So like,
Yeah.
so really, like,
they didn't really think
conversation
anything
is
of it,
nothing but
honestly.
enthusiasm, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really strange because, like, some of our closest friends were just like, I just can't believe you would do that. I just can't imagine you doing that.
Why would
And there's like, and even to, I mean, I think I understand it a little bit more now, but at the time I just remember, like, I don't understand why this would be scary for you. I just don't, like, there's just not a frame of reference. I think either we were really naive at the time, but I think, again, like, there's this, like, what's the worst that can happen? Like, it doesn't work. We sell the bus.
Yeah.
Like, and then we go home. Like, and we're just done.
Maybe we were young enough to, like, not let that be.
Well, but that's what sets, and I put myself in this category too, that's what sets us apart from the general 9-to-5 crowd, right? Because where I come from, everyone gets a 9-to-5. They do whatever they want to do on the weekends, and they stay in a job for 30, 40 years. Like, that's just kind of their life, and that's not for me, right? And
It's not for
and the
everyone.
same thing, like, I people ask me, like, and I'm kind of like, think of what the worst can happen always. And he's like, I came here with my suitcase and a set of golf clubs, and I'm still here, and I seem to figure it out. If I had to go back to that, I'd be fine.
Right.
And it's the same with every entrepreneur goes through that moment. You're like, we've done it once. We can rebuild. We can sell the bus. We can start again. Like, we're not worried about anything.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, you are, but you're not, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Right.
I think there's this, like, at the end of the day, you just start over.
Right. Whereas the people who would, like, the naysayers, I guess, would be like, or the negative people, it's just like, I don't know what I do. I mean, and they mentally just can't cope with it. Which
Right.
Well, 9 to 5
think
is
it's sad, but,
right.
you know.
Right, but I think, like, and having conversations with some, I mean, like, there's a one couple that we were really good friends with at the time, and that were, like, very much 9 to 5, and there was a couple of conversations where, like, for them, so for us it was always like purpose in life, fulfillment in life, and work, and, like, all of that is, like, one sort of thing, right? Like our work is our mission, is our purpose, is our joy, is our everything,
That's top priority.
and all of that kind of, like, works together. I think right now I'm beginning to learn to kind of allow those things to be more separate, which I think is healthy. Yeah. But at the time we had this conversation where they were like, my 9 to 5 gives me a stable platform so that I can enjoy the rest of my life. And I need this to be unwavering so that I can find fulfillment and joy and purpose outside of that. For me, those things don't have to be the same. And that was the first time where I realized, like, oh, okay. Because if you don't have this, then you can't find any of this.
Right.
Whereas for me, it's like all of it's together.
Yeah.
So.
And
That's
I
helpful.
mean, there have been times where us and I'm sure many other business owners have been like, wow, can I just work for someone else and let them pay me, and then I at least have my weekends?
40 hours a week.
Or my after, like my
go to football
evenings.
games. Yeah.
Like there's times where I'm still like, I'm ready now to just have someone else be in charge.
Yeah, but back to what you said at the start, right? Like we just you just decide, oh, I can do this now. I can do this, and I can do this, and it's more of just like because you enjoy it, and you know, there'd be a difference if you hated doing what you do every day, but you love doing what you do every day. So generally, the more that happens, the less it feels like work.
Right.
Right.
Well, and I'm just coming out of a season where I did hate what I did every day for a while, and realizing, like, retweaking those things and understanding enough about me. I'm just like, I hated it because it was the same
For 10 years.
Yeah, and it was
That's
just
why
like
you
the
hated
monotony.
it, is because he doesn't like doing things longer than
Right. And like,
5 years. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But this, like, like, oh man, I need to change something up.
But you have the ability to.
But having the ability to do that. And so really, I mean, I think like we've spent the past year, maybe a little bit longer by now, but the past year really working hard to build more time margin so that we can explore the next thing,
right.
or what is, you know,
Right.
Spend time with our kids.
Spend time with our kids.
Yeah.
Spend time with our kids. Be able to take care of family members if we need to, or explore other ventures, or even just be creative and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think there's always a part of restarting. People ask me all the time, they're like, oh man, it must be so great to just like be able to do whatever you want. And it's like, that's not what small business ownership is.
That's the opposite.
It's I think like you're more, I always tell people, you are more flexible, but you're not any more free. In fact, you're in a lot of ways, you're the opposite of free. You just get to be able to say like, this is what I don't know.
It's about flexible, right?
Yeah, you get to say, well, if I'm going to run payroll at 3:00 in the morning, then I can run payroll at 3:00 in the morning. Or if I'm going to, I can squeeze this or that, and I can take a break, and I can go to my kids' like fun run thing for an hour and whatever. But
I'll work after I put them to bed.
Right.
Yeah. And then like sometimes I say that, people are like, oh no, I don't want that. And I'm like, if you don't want that, because it's like you're the only one. You're the only one. And one of the things I tell people all the time whenever anybody asks like, what's like one piece of advice that you could give to anyone that's like thinking about starting a long business, is like, think about the hardest thing you've ever done in your entire life, and then make it twice as hard, and then make it last for 10 years. And that's what running a small business is. It has all of the fulfillment of all of that hard work. But there's a certain point, and as I've even walked with people kind of pursuing their own business ventures, there's a certain point where it's like the weight of knowing you are the last line of defense. And that tomorrow morning, like, I gotta do it again. And you work on Saturdays, and you work on the weekends, and you work on holidays, and you work on others. And there are ways that you can build yourself out of that. And we are
trying to do that.
Yeah. I think we are doing that. I think we are succeeding in working ourselves out of that role. But there's always a period of time where it's like, it's just relentless. We didn't know it at the time, but like, it's as relentless as having a kid. Like, your kid's gonna get up at 5 a.m. whether it's Martin Luther King Day Jr. or not. Like, it's like it's gonna happen. So the same with your business.
Very true.
But it's really fulfilling and it's really great.
Yeah. What was that when you have that first moment, then that first day you're in business? I mean, are you cracking champagne bottles on the side of the bus like they do for ships when they roll them out of the yard?
No, we babied that thing so much. You're just like, don't scratch or touch or breathe or smell or look. And
I'm pretty sure he drove. He would drive. We can both drive it, but he drove it the majority of the time because I would sit in back and like
make sure,
like try to hold down, like make sure nothing, or like slow down. And he's like, I'm going 10 miles an hour, and I'm like, you're too fast.
It's just so bouncy back here. Everything's rattling around. Yeah.
Where was that first day of business at? Was it downtown?
Was it was in front of the Civic Center.
That's right.
It was in front of the Civic Center on Couch Drive.
Okay.
That was our first. We called it the rollout. So it was our first rollout bash, and we gave out 50 T-shirts for free, and we sold coffee, and it was great. It was so much fun.
It was a lot of fun. Obviously, if you didn't put together, that's what led us to meet the Civic Center Music Hall, so it got us that connection. Yeah. We also met a year later, we met the owners of Clarity that were
we met them at the Caffeine Crawl. Do you remember?
Oh.
So the Oklahoma City Caffeine Crawl I
don't remember.
It's put on by the Lab out of Kansas City, and they do these like all over the country, but every March they come out. And so the March before we opened, we had renovated upstairs. That was mostly finished, but the kitchen wasn't finished yet. And they'd already invited us to this. We're like, okay, well, this will just be like a fun, like soft opening. Cause we were like putting stuff on Facebook and Instagram, and they caught wind of us and invited us to it. And so we set up at 10th and Hudson, and we ran an obnoxiously loud generator to boil water, and we made French press coffee on a card table on the bottom level, and we served like 3 or 4 groups of coffee.
Were they on it?
So Steve and Chelsea were participants in the caffeine crawl.
Oh, they also came by the bus, so I didn't know that.
Well, they came to the rollout, but like we hung out and we talked at the after party
before the rollout. Okay.
And so we went to the after party at Slingers and got connected with them. And we hung out and chatted. And
We participated in the caffeine crawl before we were ready to pull out.
Yeah. But it was really great because then there was a whole bunch of people that were like, man, we were here before it was a thing.
Yeah.
It was super fun.
And obviously the reaction to a giant red bus driving around Oklahoma City was as good as it could have been.
Oh, yeah. I got in the habit of any time I would hear a honk, I would just wave. Because I don't know, it's like someone beep, beep, like, and I got in such a habit that I would do it in my personal vehicle. So like someone's like road raging at me and I'm just smiling, waving, like hi, like a celebrity or something.
Yeah.
We learned a lot about street laws that year too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because you would put the bus on a platform, right? You would roll it onto blocks, I remember.
To level it.
To level it.
Yeah, like levelers.
I remember seeing that on Broadway.
Yeah.
Maybe
So we
the curve on Broadway.
Yeah. So because you need level ground to make good coffee. So we'd always level out the bus, but the bus is British, right? So the door is on the opposite side, and
So is the driver's seat.
the driver's seat is opposite as well.
Yep.
But our main service window is in line with the access door. And the reason for that is that we want people that are going to walk on the bus to not have to walk in the street, right? So we're like, okay, this is the main service window, but we also have the ability to serve out of the opposite side. And so, but we learned that the city doesn't like you parking against the flow of traffic. It's very illegal. And even though we petitioned all the way up to the top of somebody in the city, some head of parking, something like,
Sure.
we were on like the 10th, the top floor of the thing, like looking down, and we were like, why can't we do this? And he was like, because you just can't. And I was like,
But why?
Yeah, you want people in the middle of the street to come into the door? And he was like, we just like, you're driving, you'd have to drive into oncoming traffic in order to get your bus over there. I'm like, yeah, but we're just like one. Yeah. Just trust us. Right. And he was like, no.
Giant red bus. How can you not miss it?
And he was like, no, you can't do it. And we were like, so we gave it up. But it was an adventure, man.
It was.
So how many years until you do like have a brick and mortar then, and how does that decision come in? And because I mean, you're driving around. What was it, March you said you started in?
We started in September.
Oh, okay. So you're driving until it gets super cold.
2015 is when we rolled the bus out.
So you never go, you have quite a runway until you get to like 100-degree weather, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we operate all winter long.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to stay warm than it is to stay cool.
Yes.
And we basically say that the inside of the bus is always 10 degrees warmer than outside.
So we actually closed down a couple months in the winter time. I'm sorry, in the summer.
In the summertime.
The heat of the summer.
Yeah, we stay operational.
We tried to
in the winter.
get some air conditioning. We looked at several different ones, and none of them worked. And the one that did work was like $10,000, and we were like, we can't pay that off in X many years. Like, it's cheaper for us to just close down for a couple months in the summer than it is to purchase this air
conditioning. Is that when you really, like, was that in the business plan to start, or was that like, oh, it's 1,000 degrees outside?
There are a few things we did not anticipate when we got the bus. For one, how short the inside of the bus is. Nick is 6'3", and the bus is 6 foot.
Yeah.
So he cannot stand upright in the bus. Yeah. If there's long at the beginning, like I would bar and he would sit and take orders, or he has this like barista stance was what he calls it, which is silly, but he likes
it's like
power stance.
Power stance. Yep, that's right. That's right. I'm
also
ready.
known as Warrior One.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Always ready to rock.
Yeah. But
I think we were suspicious of it once we started construction. The first summer when we were doing construction, we were like, I don't know if this is going to work.
Yeah.
So we were suspicious that we were going to need to do it. But what really sealed the deal for it was we would set up, we'd roll up and we'd set up, and we would just sweat for hours and hardly anybody would show up. And we were just like, and people are, when people find out, they're always like, oh, I drink coffee all year long. It's like, right, you drink iced coffee in an air-conditioned building that you're going like through a drive-through, so you don't have to go out in your air-conditioned car to go back. Like, are you going to walk from your office 10 minutes in 110 degrees to stand outside to wait for iced coffee that's going to be hot by the time you get back to your office? And they're always like, oh yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. And you're like, I know. Right. That's why we closed.
Nowadays we probably could, but
the city's changed a lot, and I think there's a lot more people that are walking around and doing that. But at the time, we were just like, man, this just isn't.
So
I think there was one day in June when me and the guy that was working for us was like, we were sitting there, and I think we made one sale that day. And we were like, no.
It's not it.
Not it.
Yeah.
Well, we would park in different locations downtown. I don't know if you knew that. We'd have like Tuesday, we try to build consistency so that we could like get to know the people we serve. And so one of them was the Civic Center Music Hall, one of them was Kerr Park, and one of them was actually on Fridays we'd park across the street from where our brick and mortar is now.
Yeah, I remember.
In the Heartland parking lot. And so that was really kind of cool to like have it come full circle in that way. When we did find this location.
Yeah.
To do our brick and mortar, it was.
So the first one was Civic Center then?
The first was Civic Center, and then
I don't even remember.
2 months after we were opened, or 3 months after we opened, the
Civic Center Foundation.
Thank you, Civic Center Foundation asked us to have a meeting with him, and then that's when they asked us to be part of move into their coffee space. Yeah. Well, originally they asked us to build a bar cart and be in the lobby because they had other plans for that space. And then they were like, well, it seems silly to have this existing coffee shop be there and not have someone in it. So we moved into there.
So I'm so thankful we never did that cart. Yeah. It would have been a nightmare.
Maybe. But so we moved into there and kind of did a paint job on that. That transition was a little bit rough, but we won't get into that. Just lack of communication on several people's end.
A lot of who moved my cheesing.
And then, so then, like, I think that February, as I'm in there, like, painting, and, like, it was you and me and our one employee, also the same one that I bumped with my pregnant belly, Brian. And who was also a youth, he was in our youth group. We're also family friends of his. We just brought him along.
We're just like, if you know us, come on.
So we're like serving people, and there's an intermission, and I would like fall asleep during intermission, and that's when we found out I was pregnant with Daxon, our firstborn. Because I kept falling asleep during shows.
Yeah. Well, we were all tired. We were all exhausted because that first Broadway run at the Civic Center,
it was a week long.
It was a week, yeah. So the Broadway runs are always like Tuesday through Sunday, right? So, and we operated the bus at the time, I think Tuesday through Saturday. And so we would wake up in the morning, run the bus, we would grab a bite to eat somewhere, and then we'd show up at the Civic Center and we'd work until midnight, and then we would go home, sleep, and then do it all again the next day. So we were just like
a week at a time,
dead.
And we lived 30 minutes away.
And we lived quite a ways away at the time. And so, but what really kind of tipped us off for that was like, you just stayed tired.
Yeah.
It was like 2 weeks later, and I was like, why are you still tired from this? You've been sleeping or whatever.
So exhausted.
Yeah. And then she was like, oh, hey. And I'm like, oh, hey.
That's why.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So
that was your second?
That was the first.
That was our first.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was
a beautiful surprise.
So we didn't even make it a year.
Nope. We weren't even open a year when that happened. That was not the plan. But then when he was born, I stayed as long as I could, and then when
until we're knocking drinks off the counter.
Until I was knocking drinks off the counter with my basketball belly, and everyone was laughing at me. It's fine. And then then we had always been like 50-50 work-wise. Like you do books, I do books, just kind of like tag team as needed, and then I kind of try to take over. I did take over all the
so you started
background
doing
work,
all the,
QuickBooks and all that stuff, and you got to just run the bus, which was good.
And so, obviously now you have a different brick and mortar now. Like, how do we transition then from Civic Center to, you know, what's the timeline to get to
Right.
full circle to Moronville?
Yeah.
Where you are.
How long did we run this?
Well, so the Civic Center went from
us 2
2016 until 2020.
Oh, wow. Quite a long time.
Yeah. And so we were there for a good while, and so COVID shut that down, right? And basically we just never reopened after COVID. And that's in part because the Civic Center took a while to get back to capacity, but also because like I think they got a new bond from the city to do a big renovation. So all the plans that they had talked about doing when we first came on, like, it was funny because like we were like a 6-month contract that lasted for 4 years. Like it just was the way that it was. It worked, and they had bigger fish to fry, and it was fine. But so they were like, okay, we're going to do the renovation, which means we're going to bring coffee in house, like we always talked about doing. And we were like, that's great because it's actually kind of nice to not have to like work nights on top of working days, because we had a team, but it was still like, you know, you're managing it, you're stocking it, and
Yeah, we were still managing it. We had like 20 employees.
mental headspace. Yeah, I'd be like, you know, we're watching a movie, and I'm like checking my phone to make sure no one's like in trouble or whatever, and so. But during the shutdown, the bus had a really cool opportunity because we're mobile, right?
Yeah.
So we get to be outside, and so we kind of talked with our team, and I looked with Lori, and we kind of prayed about it. We talked about it leading up to the shutdown, the official city shutdown. As things are canceling, as other cities are making decisions, I kept hearing people say like, man, it's so good to still see you guys out. I'm so good. It makes me so happy to see small businesses out. And then I made like some like stupid little video that
went viral.
That went like a little viral, and low-key viral. And people just kind of started talking about like bringing little pieces of joy, making their day better, improving type things. And so I kind of looked at Lori, and we were talking with our team, and it was like, it feels like a really big loophole that we would be considered essential, because essential business can stay open. We're like, okay, well, we're food service, but we're sexy coffee.
Coffee shops are certified as a restaurant business.
Yeah, so we're like, yeah, so it's like, it feels weird that we would be essential.
Yeah.
And we have some friends that said like, no, we're really not. We're going to shut down.
They closed.
But I kind of looked at everybody and said like, okay, if we're going to stay open, if we are essential, let's be essential to mental health. Let's be essential to well-being. And so people are losing their jobs. There's a lot of uncertainty. Yeah, it was what was needed at the time. I think, you know, people kept saying, you know, so we leaned into this idea of like, hey, get out of your house, come to the park, get a sexy coffee, feel human again, and enjoy a sunshiny day that doesn't feel like the world's ending. And we wanted that to be open access to everybody. So we switched to pay what you can, and we just kind of said like, if you've got a job and you're stable, like drop some money. We called it the poison jar because at the time we thought that touching anything that was like, you know, do you remember
money
that?
Was toxic.
And so we just had this like big giant jar, and we're like just put your cash in the poison jar, and like don't make change, just drop a bill in there, it's fine. Or you could like, and we were like, or you can Venmo us, or just like take it for free and have a great day. And we had people that came. There was one person that worked at Whole Foods. His wife, they just had a baby, and she lost her job. And he was like still working, and he got 2 lattes every day we were open, and he was never able to pay for them. But it was just like so great. He was like, guys, I can't tell you what this means to just be able to do this right now. And so for us, that was really like, this is why we're here. Yeah. This is why we're doing this. So we did that. We started Pay What You Can, I think March 1-ish, and then we did that all the way until we closed down for the summer in June. And we came back and like trying to figure out, okay, life is kind of trying to get back to normal. Everyone's kind of trying to get back into rhythms. We're trying to like, we don't want to overextend the generosity. We don't want to, burn out the generosity of other people. So let's go back to like normal payment methods. Let's try to stay accessible. Let's try to stay hopeful. In the meantime, our kids are getting older, and
we had Quinley in there somewhere.
Oh yeah, no, we had in 2019.
Yeah, I know.
2019 at Christmas, we had our daughter.
18.
No,
Yeah.
Was it 18?
Yeah.
Well, it's because it was like 2 weeks before 2019.
Yes. Less than.
So she was born.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Christmas.
Yeah, she was alive all of 2019.
Yes.
Anyways, but we kind of looked around and we're like, we need a home base.
Yeah.
I'm tired of, literally just taking the work home all the time. I'm tired of being like, so this time now we've got 2 kids. So I'm the only one that can drive the bus. And it's like, I'm tired of the only time our business being open is the time when I can physically open it.
But also, like, we're dreamers.
Right.
And we're
Right.
entrepreneurs. So when we really want to have fun, we talk about all the things that we could and wouldn't want to do, right?
Yeah.
And so we were like starting to dream of like, okay, like what if we did have a space? Like what could we do with it? Like we are adventurous people. We love hiking and mountain biking and snowboarding and scuba diving. And so we were like, gosh, we really wish we could, trying to his ball of like it all being together. Like, I wonder if we could like have other people like enjoy and experience these fun things and like let that be another way to connect with the community and show love and like. So then we were trying to think like, well, maybe we need like, could Junction be like, first of all, the definition of Junction is where a point where 1 or 2 things meet, right? This is not actual definition. That was my.
Oh, it is. It is.
It is, okay.
Webster's is like where 1 or 2 points meet or are joined.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. That's the actual. And so we were like, could we be a junction point for, our goal is to be a junction point for God and community and people. And so like, let's just add to that, right? Like we had been having dreams and visions of like, not literal, but things of like what ifs, like what if we had this, next to our coffee shop, we had a CrossFit gym and like larger dream picture items. And so like from that is also part of where our drive came from for this brick and mortar as well. We had originally, actually, it came about, I forgot, we thought we were going to have to move where we keep May-belle. May-belle is stored downtown right now, also off Reno, but we thought we were going to have to move, and so we were looking for a place to store the bus, and where we are currently has this larger back space, and we're like, maybe we could park the bus there. Turns out we can't, but it turned into.
But there was another opportunity that was like really great to be able to move in there.
So are still looking for a place.
I think the dream was I think the dream was like, hey, we've been doing these sort of like little blips here and there, and we just sort of pop up here and kind of like make your day better pop-ups. What if we had a central place that you could come to this 6 days a week, regular hours, predictable, instead of just waiting to accidentally catch the bus, which is kind of seems like the MO. So, and then what would that look like? What could we host different groups? Could we start different groups? Could it be a launching pad for other things? Could it be an incubator for different ideas or a training ground for something or all this kind of stuff? Things that we've always kind of talked about doing off and on, but like the nature of the bus doesn't allow it. So,
not to mention from a business standpoint, like it just makes sense to have a central hub for a food truck to have like a
Yeah, because the bus serves a purpose, right, during the great months. But when it gets, you need, like, that's probably why the Civic Center was so good, because it just filled that gap for you guys. You didn't worry or didn't have any pressure around, we got to keep the bus going this summer because it's going to, it's just like, oh, no, we just transitioned to this now. And then you kind of teach your clients that. They're like, oh, we know the season the bus is coming out.
Yep.
But until then, you can come to our space and get that.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's, we're 10 years now, right? Getting almost to be, you said March, 10 years of business, or 10 years of us being like, having
I think we
the
since
name
we
or whatever,
established in
established it,
2014,
yeah.
and we've been.
Yeah.
It feels like that for us because we've worked so
Right.
hard.
Yeah,
Even though
yeah.
technically, I don't think we rolled out until 2015.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
You started the process.
we started it in 2014. So for us, we would consider 10 years of Junction in
Yeah.
2024.
Yeah.
What's the next 10 years look like? Like if you could,
Huh.
you guys are dreamers, right? So
Right.
Right.
what do you want to dream? I mean, for the next, like, if we look back in 10 years and you're like, wow, I did this.
Yeah.
Tied back into the mission of, everything that you're doing, obviously, as well. But, like, does that mean multiple? Does that mean another truck? Does that mean multiple locations? Does that mean a different business entirely? Like, I mean, you mentioned CrossFit, like,
While you're gathering your thoughts,
Yeah.
I'll just say we have had so many people come and ask and offer on multiple occasions, especially that first year we were open, if they could do like a franchise of the bus, or we could open up. We had people in Tulsa like ask if they could do the same thing. Like, I think the only ones we said no to was like, hey, we'd rather you not do that in Tulsa, just because that's so close to home. But like everywhere else, like we've helped. Supposedly, we've helped a lot of people start double-decker bus businesses in the UK. At the time when we first did it, like to my research, we were the only ones.
yeah.
Well, so the reason why we help so many people is like we try to be as best we can. Obviously, we're entrepreneurs, we're really busy, but as much as we can, we try to just be an open book and give as much advice, because that's what happened with us.
That's right. We met the cows,
like
the owners of Mariposa.
Mariposa. So Prelude used to be Mariposa Coffee, and like we just cold called them. We're like, hey, you're the only coffee truck in the city. Can we ask you questions? Like,
they had, like, a
do you
trailer.
make any money doing this? Like, is there any point? And he was like, man, this is a really bold question to just ask a complete stranger. And I was like, well, the worst you can say is no. So we just thought we'd fire it away. And they're like,
everyone's nice.
Right. And they're like, yeah, we respect that. So, but like, I mean, everybody was just so willing to help in whatever capacity they could, that I think like we try to do that in any opportunity. And like I said, I mean, I'm atrociously terrible at answering emails, but as much as we can, if someone reaches out. I mean, just recently someone was like, hey, I got a double decker. Do you know who works on it? And I was like, Rick works on it. I don't know what he can help you with or whatever, but like, anyways.
It happens.
For the future, we don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I think right now, like I said, we've been working for the past year to get ourselves to a point where I think we have enough margin and breathing room to be able to explore that. I think especially so, like, COVID, on the back of COVID, and then, post-COVID depression, standard. But also, like, opening a brick and mortar, trying to get that rolling, get that stable. So, like, we're kind of at a place where, like, and now it's like, let's remember.
Take a breathing year.
Let's
Really
enjoy
take a breath,
this.
yeah.
Let's remember, and then like remember how to be creative. I think that there's a certain point where you kind of forget to have good ideas, or how to have creative ideas. And so I think we're kind of in that place where we're relearning that. And like Lori said, we've got some things in the background going on that are taking up a lot of the bandwidth. But I've been having more of a drive for, ironically, like community. So when we started, obviously it's like, we want to build a community, but ironically, we were so excited to get going that we kind of like try to just build a community by ourselves. And there were a lot of people that helped us along the way, and it was like we
could not have done it.
None of this would have happened if it wasn't for all of those people. And so, even like your mom letting us use the shop, and people giving up a Saturday to like take a Sawzall to an old bus, all of that kind of stuff. But when it came down to like the day in, day out, one of the things that we realized is like, man, like we're kind of on our own in this regard. And I think to a point we needed to be in order to learn how learn the beast itself, I guess.
Part of that was that we didn't feel like we could ask anyone to be like, hey, do you want to quit your job and come work for us? We don't know when or if we can pay you.
Yeah.
But hey, come have fun.
We
with
also
us.
don't know what we're doing, and we don't really have much of a plan, and we don't know where this is going or how long it's going to last.
I have fun.
So, yeah. But I think we're at a place now where it's like, man, it'd be really great to like have a space where like-minded people could come together to do similar things in different expressions. So, you know, a buddy of ours has a CrossFit gym. He was a former youth pastor, and it's a very similar thing where like using CrossFit to not only make your body physically healthier, but make you mentally healthier, spiritually healthier, relationally healthier. They do a super cool thing where they do like couples CrossFit, and they use it almost as like marital counseling, where they use the platform of CrossFit to re-engage relationships. So like this idea where it's like, hey, you guys are doing this thing over here, and we're doing this thing over here, and you're doing this thing where, you know, you're trying to make, you know, better life for humans. Like, what if we kind of all got together and we could feed off of each other's energy and bounce off of each other's ideas? And
doing tough things brings you together.
Let's do the hard stuff together, and then and maybe we can make a greater impact on the world. Maybe we could make more people's days better if we
What gym is that?
do that. So it's called CrossFit Arwall, and it's out in Mustang.
Okay.
The owner actually just moved to California, but I think they're doing some remote ownership stuff.
Cool.
But yeah.
A couple of questions to finish up.
Yeah.
What do you put your success down to?
I know that I have the answer to the last question.
Okay,
If you
go
don't
for it.
mind.
Yeah, do it.
Our future, just like one thing that we have has always been a goal, and that has been a goal for the last several years. I feel like it would be to, it's either Nick or I driving the bus every day. And since I've had kids, excuse me, I'm gonna sneeze. Okay, and since I've had the kids, like it's been Nick driving the bus every day, morning and night. And we don't want to get rid of the bus. We love the bus, but it gets exhausting. And so we just started training someone to drive the bus this year, for the first year ever, because it is also our livelihood. And if someone wrecks it, like that's not good. So it's been a dream to like find a place where we could pull the bus in and still continue to serve out of it. I've always loved that idea. We have been working towards that idea. It didn't work out this time, and the opportunity with Broadway we couldn't pass up. But that is potentially on the future, but also just the idea of like trying to be slightly more hands-off in regards to driving May-belle around.
Yeah.
That would be my other answer for the future.
Ironically, when I said I want to sit and drink coffee with people, I haven't actually gotten to do a whole lot of it in recent years, I think.
So we're trying to get to that.
Trying to get back to that,
Believe it or not. The original goal, which means you not working as much.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing that came to mind, I went to a place in Del City last week, JT's Barbecue. Unbelievable place. If you haven't been there, totally worth going. It's literally an old house off a street in Del City, and you walk in and literally walk in the front door of someone's old house, and it you just knocked a few walls down, and it's just like barbecue's incredible. And it's like they've knocked down like that first wall into the kitchen, so you're just in someone's living room and kitchen. Like, it's fantastic, and it feels like nothing's changed. Right. But and it's the first time I'd been there, and I went there with a friend who'd been there before, and the owner sat in the corner. He comes over and he's just like, "Hey guys, everything okay? If you need anything, like and he doesn't introduce himself as the owner, but you just know, right? And I bet he just sits there all day, just hangs out, right? Yeah, like,
you want to be the old man in the corner,
right? But like, no,
but for real,
those conversations, like, come hang out, come have a couple of ribs. Like, I'm gonna be here anyway because I'm working. Right, my team's doing everything, but if they need me, I'm right here. Right, but they know what they're doing. But I'm just here. Like. That is
of being available.
And there's a snippet of that now with the brick and mortar, because I'll go in and I'll kind of like type away at whatever. And there's days where like I know like if I'm going to work from the shop, I'm gonna get like 2 things done all day, because that's but that's the thing, right? Like that's why, and that's what I want to do. Yeah. And so I'm trying to even get to a point where it's like I come in without my laptop, and I just want to sit and just drink, but it's drink coffee. Just want to sit and drink coffee.
Yeah. What is your coffee order?
So I love cortados. I love drip coffee. And right now we have a spiced beetroot syrup that is so great. We call it Shroot Farms. So,
Lori, about you?
really good.
I like an Aussie flat white or a cappuccino or cortado, something with a shot of espresso and a wee bit of milk.
What's the difference between an Aussie flat white and a flat white?
It's all in the milk ratio.
Okay.
So a cortado is 2 ounces of espresso with just like an ounce or two of milk, 2 ounces of milk, and then the Aussie flat white is 4 ounces of milk, and then the cappuccino is 6 ounces of milk.
Okay.
So
Good to know.
just kind of feels on like that's my how strong do you want your
As
coffee?
opposed to like a Starbucks flat white, which is just a latte,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
like everything else.
Yes, exactly.
But
That's awesome.
I would contribute our success to, this is going to sound really weird, but really, I think it is grace. I think when I look back and I think about how much people were willing to help us, how forgiving people were in the beginning, how
Yes.
patient people have been, and even things like just like the conversation with the city, like the fact that like someone was just willing to listen, and but I also think like the grace that we've had with each other, the grace that our team has had with us, the grace that we've had with our team, just this notion of receiving something that you didn't necessarily earn or deserve. I think that's been a very constant thread throughout our journey. And I don't think we would be here if it wasn't for that.
One of our 5 mission statements,
Values?
thank you, not mission statement, values, is transparency. And I think that sometimes transparency goes hand in hand with grace. We have transparency in our relationship, we have transparency with our relationship with our staff and with our customers. And like, I think honesty and transparency open the doors for grace. So
Yeah.
that's my take.
Last question. What does Junction Coffee mean to you?
Like the definition.
Yeah. What does it mean?
I think that at its best, Junction Coffee is an extension of who we are. It is what we put into the world to reflect what we believe at our core, and what we yearn for the world to actually look like. And so I think that's one of those things where it's like, well, what if it doesn't work out? It's like, well, it would hurt, but it's like, if it's an extension of who I am, whether it works or doesn't work, doesn't mean that, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to lose a part of who I am, because I'm still me, and we can just do it in a different capacity, I guess. Does that make sense?
The first part made sense.
The second part got weird and didn't make any sense. But
No.
Yes.
I get what you mean. Like, because it is an extension of who we are, it's not going to cease to exist. It will just have to be remolded and reshaped if something goes wrong.
Sure.
Maybe.
What does Junction Coffee mean to you?
I think you pretty much nailed it. I would definitely say that we've put enough into Junction Coffee for it to be an extension of who we are.
Yeah.
And that includes the good and the bad. That includes us trying really hard and failing. There are times when, I could give dozens of examples, but there are times when we get caught up too much in business. And there are times when we forget to do, we are human beings. And because we're human beings, Junction Coffee is also
A human being.
A human being.
Right.
And then you want to talk about weird. No, it's really weird.
No, but I think really, before you get to this like massive, or even not super massive, like before you get to this like corporate level where there's like 3 different levels of management and all this other kind of stuff, like, that's what like businesses are living entities, and they take on personalities of their own in different ways and different capacities, and sometimes people are really intentional about that, and I think like we've tried to be intentional about it, but I also think like it's really, we're really close to it. We still get feedback even from hires of just like I've never worked at a coffee shop where the owner is like this involved, and it's funny because like we are the least involved that we've ever been.
Right.
And I was like, really? Like, what's happening? Where do you do this? Like, and they're like, no. Like, it's nice to be able to just say like, hey, here's this thing, and you guys lend an ear. Right. You're willing to help. You come in and you're being there, and it's like.
And like I said, we have an amazing staff. Like, obviously, we interview and hire our staff. And so, like, everyone that we have is so great. And I feel like, in a way, is an extension of us. Or we hope that they are, right? Like, that's the goal.
Yeah. In their own, like, flair and capacity.
Right.
And, like, it's super fun. But, yeah. So anyways.
Sick. Well, guys,
Cool.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Thank
for coming
you.
down.
Thank you.
People listening, I will put the Instagram link down below. And what's the address to your brick and mortar?
611 North Broadway Avenue.
Okay, I'll put that in the description. You can go click that right away. Go follow if you don't already. Thank you for coming down. Thank you for coming in, sharing your amazing stories. I see the passion you have, see the love you have for each other, which shines through. Excited to, we should do this in 3 or 4 years and see how things have progressed. Maybe the kids are up and working at that point.
They already are.
They already are.
Sick. Love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Daxon's getting after it.
He can make
does,
a really great cappuccino.
Okay,
by
that's
himself.
my first order then. I need
Yeah.
a cappuccino from Daxon.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate you coming down. I'm glad we did this now and we didn't rush it and do it a few years ago, because
Yeah.
I
Thank
think
you.
the conversation would have been a little different. So
Absolutely.
appreciate you doing that. And for people listening, we will catch you next episode. Cheers.
Thank you.
Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is presented by Citizens Bank of Edmond. Citizens Bank of Edmond has been serving Edmond since 1901. They pride themselves on investing in the community and are here for all your personal and business banking needs. For more information, go to mycitizens.bank and follow them on Instagram at citizensedmond, as well as go bank there, because I bank there too. It's been a fantastic personal experience for me. I've had my podcast account there now, my podcast business account there now for 4 years now, I think, and it's been fantastic. So definitely worth your time. They're a great group of people, and they're always there to answer the phone when I forget my password, because I seem to forget it daily. So yeah, go to Citizens Edmond and check them out. It's been awesome.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.